So our second briefing will be focused on the Water Quality and Environmental Innovation Act. And if you're ready, let's begin.
Hi, everyone. Okay, tech issues are not the only problem we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about something else now. Um, Water, exactly. Oh, I think I have to use these. This is Lake Okeechobee in southern Florida. Once home to a thriving ecosystem and a popular swimming spot for kids, this lake is now covered in an overgrowth of harmful algae in a phenomenon called eutrophication. Houston, we have a problem. Eutrophication is just one of many threats to water quality that affects water bodies in the US today. Sea level rise and coastal erosion are threatened to impact almost 30% of the US's current population. Ocean acidification threatens marine ecosystems across the shorelines, and studies say that there is no water body in the country today that is free from microplastics. The problems that affect water quality issues in the US are complex, and they take on many forms. They affect the physical makeup, the chemistry, the biology, and the structure of water bodies themselves. How do we solve such a complex web of water quality threats? We need solutions that use the most cutting-edge tools that we have as a species, the most innovative technologies that could address water quality solutions from a holistic perspective. Now, there is a growing body of solutions of these kinds, solutions that have found innovative ways to either harness emerging technologies or use nature-based solutions to address critical water quality issues. For example, companies have been using tech-based solutions like artificial intelligence to monitor water quality. Engineering solutions like nanotechnology have been used to solve really hard-to-solve problems like the cleanup of microplastics. Nature-based solutions, for example, living seawalls are being used to protect coastlines from soil erosion in ways that allow marine ecosystems to live. So there is a thriving world of innovation out there looking to solve these issues, but the problem with a lot of these solutions is that they are vastly underfunded by private markets. They lack the resources needed to be deployed and scaled up effectively. So how can we overcome this market gap? One potential solution is the proposed Water Quality and Environmental Innovation Act. This is a policy solution that attempts to help these organizations by providing them with this critically needed funding. With a budget of about $23 million in grant money a year, this bill would allow the Environmental Protection Agency to offer grants and contracts to organizations that are working in this space. And since innovation can come from many places, this money is open to organizations of all kinds, including for-profit startups, as well as, of course, nonprofits and research institutions. Every year, the EPA will solicit proposals from organizations working on critical water quality issues, evaluate which ones stand out as innovative, as they are using innovative technologies and they're really working on key water quality threats, and then curate grants or contracts for these selected companies or organizations. An important part of the program design is that the greatest emphasis at every step is placed on impact. Now, going back to Lake Okeechobee, suppose we have a hypothetical startup called Company X. Company X is using an AI-based monitoring tool to tackle the root cause of eutrophication, which is the runoff of nutrients like phosphorus and nitrogen into lakes and ponds. They measure the content of these nutrients in real time and then using AI map potential sources of contamination nearby. So they're using an innovative technology. They have successfully executed a pilot project as well that was able to identify and stop the cause of eutrophication in another local lake. So assuming Company X approaches the EPA for funding through this bill, it would then be evaluated along a set of criteria anchored towards performance. Priority is given in the evaluation process to solutions that address relevant threats in innovative ways, as Company X has been doing, have demonstrated impact as seen through their pilot project, and also solutions that show potential for scalability. Company X's tool is small, very cost-effective, and can be easily deployed at scale. So overall, Company X is a good fit for this program. Let's say Company X is approved for funding. How would it receive this funding and how much? Now, the impact focus of the program design doesn't just factor into project evaluation, but also into the budget allocation process. Because it's already tested its technology out, Company X is eligible for the highest chunk, or up to 70% of the annual funding, as the budget allocation structure reserves the highest proportion of funds for solutions that are already at a close to market stage. And again, keeping in line with being impact driven, not all of the allocated funds would be given to Company X upfront. Instead, only a certain percentage, about, let's say, half the total grant amount, would be given to Company X initially, and the remaining half would be dispersed once Company X has reached a target on some predetermined key performance indicator. And the intent of this process, of course, is to ensure that there is continued demonstration of impact at every step along the way. Now, this is easy in theory, but in practice, measuring impact is not an easy task. Since the projects that this bill will support are taking on very specific issues or doing things in very niche ways, we can't have a single set of indicators to measure all the projects under. What we can instead have is some general environmental and social objectives that the program would want to see, which are reduced pollution, and as a result of that, community well-being and thriving ecosystems. And to align with federal objectives around justice, we want to have more community inclusion and engagement in the process. And using these broader objectives as guides, the EPA can work with each beneficiary then to develop more targeted KPIs for that process. Though this process is laborious and not easy, it's not easy to work with each company to develop specific metrics, data gathering and measurement is a very important part of this bill. The bill mandates that every organization report its progress and make all its data freely available to the government. So by integrating that knowledge exchange process earlier on in the program design, the EPA can have agency over what data is collected, how it's collected, and how it's reported. And this is very important because a great benefit of this program is that it would give the EPA access to data that it would otherwise not have access to, specifically data at more local scales or along metrics that the EPA otherwise wouldn't have tracked. This would help the EPA iterate its own operations at addressing crucial water quality issues and solve problems it hasn't been able to solve before. Like, for example, the EPA has not yet been able to solve the problem of eutrophication in Lake Okeechobee in a significant way, and the data from this project might help them do that. But once impact has been measured, the next question is, how can it be managed? How do we know that the solutions that the EPA funds are indeed solving the right problems in a way that really leads to long-term change? Because the individual success metrics themselves don't tell us a story of how the program as a whole will perform. It's important for the EPA to have a clear system to consolidate all of these metrics together and define some sort of clear criteria for success. In this case, in the case of this bill, if more than 75 of a project's specific metrics improve after the disbursement of the grant money, the project would be considered successful. A clearly defined dashboard like the one on the screen, which synthesizes this overview of success of the individual success metrics with potentially a process of being able to predict future success, would be able to help the EPA iterate its evaluation criteria and budget allocation decisions over the course of the program so it can lead to the most effective allocation of resources on its part. Now, it's important to note that this bill is only a very small dent in a very big problem. $23 million is very little money for funding tech and engineering-heavy solutions. Why is it relevant then that we even have such a bill? Because of the importance of the problem that it's trying to solve and the way it's trying to solve them. Most of these solutions represent a departure from how things are currently done at a federal level. So the bill is in some way a way to test the waters, pun intended, for how we can use innovative technologies to address critical water quality problems in the US. So in summary, a company like Company X may not be able to solve the problem of eutrophication nationwide, but even helping one Lake Okeechobee would change many lives for the better and lead us a little bit closer to this goal. By funding Company X and other such organizations that the bill's budget can allow, the EPA can start to tackle this massive problem of water quality in the US drop by drop. Thank you so much for listening to this presentation. Before we end, I'd like to thank my task team, Shabi, Yugratna, and Sophie, as well as our entire team for their incredible work over the last 6 months. I'd also like to thank Professor Cass for guiding us every step of the way through this semester. Thank you. Any questions?
Hi. Yeah, first of all, I wanted to congratulate you for the presentation, but there's you mentioned something about $23 million, and I'm not sure where that came from.
Right. The funding for this bill is sort of tied to the revenue that is collected from another program called the Motor Vehicle and Engines Compliance Program, and we had a meeting where a call with the representative of Byron Donalds, who is one of the proponents of this bill in Parliament, and they said that the revenue they collected from this program this year was about 23 million. So it is a varied budget depending on the revenue collected from that program. So that's where the 23 million comes from.
Hey, thank you for that presentation. It was clearly very thoroughly thought through, so really appreciated that. I just had a question around the disbursement process. I know that the team came up with an idea to pay as you go kind of thing, like where key performance indicators, once they're met, then the funding is released. I just wanted to know whether the team considered about the equity consideration specifically. Like smaller companies usually find it harder to find funding upfront. So is there a consideration for that?
Absolutely. I think that that has also factored into the evaluation criteria and how much funding we give a little bit. So this bill is trying to support companies that have already gotten some amount of private funding and just need a little bit more to get out into the market. So it is favoring those kinds of companies over the very small companies, just because the bill wants, this program design kind of wants to make sure that the money that it's putting in, because it has very little, is kind of leading to, they want the technology to be proven. So yes, sometimes a small company can have, demonstrated impact and therefore be eligible for for this program, or be a kind of project that the bill would want to support. And I think in that case, it would really depend company to company. So this program design, the funding disbursement process, is sort of a very general overview. If the company only needs 50% of the funds to be able to deploy its technology, that's how much we would give them. If it needs 90% of the initial grant money to be able to deploy its technology, or 100%, it would really depend on the company. But this is the overall intent of the program design in general, just to make sure that we keep the impact focus, and we kind of favor companies that have already gone through the private sector fundraising process and have, a good product and just need a little bit of help.